Hi, everyone. I'm Lex Gray. Welcome to the Lex Gray Show. I am a new-ish solo RPG player slash game master. My YouTube channel is 750 or so subscribers, much smaller than compared to other far more talented individuals out there like me, myself, and Die, Books, Bricks, and Boards, Dungeon, the Dungeon Dive. There are many other YouTubers out there who have a higher budget, editing talent, and more experience and knowledge compared to me. I want this video, which is called How to Solo RPG, the opening kickoff for any football fans out there, which I'm not, but I figure it's the best way to introduce the red pill to you guys in getting into the hobby. So I'm assuming this video may latch on to people outside of my subscriber list because I'm also assuming that a lot of my subscribers are familiar with tabletop role-playing games. So I do want to put a disclaimer that this is not a end-all be-all video. This will be pretty quick. And I'm also, I assume a lot from time to time, but I'm want to mention that this video is for familiar players of tabletop role-playing games. If you are very new to role-playing games in general, you might be asking, well, why do you solo a role-playing video game? Those are yourself, you play with others. This is tabletop role-playing games. These are on the table itself, digitally online through Roll20, Foundry, etc. You play with a group or you play by yourself. I'm focusing on playing by yourself. It is a very curious approach to tabletop role-playing. It is a very growing community. This has been around for decades, far longer than I've been alive. And since like Tunnels and Trolls, D&D, it's been a thought, and it's been in a lot of other player households, soloing until they stumbled onto what is the online YouTube community of solo RPG. Now, the first opening I would like to mention here is what is solo RPG? So if you are new to the hobby, or if you're familiar with tabletop role playing, but you haven't really heard about soloing, which is a mechanic in many recent games, it's astonishing to see. It's basically playing a tabletop role playing game by yourself on your own time. If you cannot find a group due to limitations in where you live, budget reasons, if you are an introvert like me, if you don't have the time, if you've tried but you want to try again and get some inspiration, again, use my video as an opening door to then find YouTubers out there who are far more talented. What got me into solo RPGing was Trevor Duvall from Me, Myself, and Die. He has a something like this. He lists like nine reasons to play solo RPGs or how to. He gives you far greater advice than I ever could. So again, he's very talented. He's a voice actor, so he has all the mannerisms and voices, and he's very eccentric. And he talks a lot about classic role-playing games. So it's not just his seasons of making actual narrative videos, episodes, solo sessions, but he does talk about my favorite series of his, the Sage's Library. He talks about classic role-playing games. Now, his channel is pretty quiet right now because he's working on his own RPG called The Broken Empires. I recommend looking into it. I think it's Patreon or something like that. He's launching it soon, but not a sponsor or affiliation, just I'm a huge fan, so just feel free to check him out. There are many others I've talked about on my channel here, but he was the first one I've ever stumbled onto. I'm like, this sounds really intriguing. And when you actually watch a YouTuber of his talent or any others out there who have different levels of voice, volume, devotion, it's all over the world. This hobby touches all the corners of the globe. A lot of my audience is from all over the globe. It's absolutely fascinating, and I love to see that this hobby can really help people play their favorite game when they don't have access to a group or they just don't want to be part of a group, which is totally fine too. That's probably more for my case. All right, that was number one. What is solo RPG? Simple as that. You play the game by yourself. Now, number two, how can I start? Find a simple game. I understand that there's a lot of very rules crunchy systems out there, like Rollmaster or um, GURPS. But I do recommend, especially if you are newish to the hobby, but you're familiar with how role playing works in general, find a simple game. Maze Rats. This is by far my favorite system. It's a 2d6 system. It's literally one page of rules and then character creation. It's very simple. Has a bunch of tables to inspire you. We'll get to that in a second. I've talked about tables in an earlier video too, so feel free to check that out. But find a simple game that has just enough rules to make you roll some dice. There are games out there that don't use dice, they even use a Jenga tower. Again, the role-playing community is eccentric, it's out there, it's bizarre in all of its own might, and it's absolutely amazing and fun. But I'd say find a game that has just enough dice rolling, character creation process probably within 5 minutes, rules you can learn within 10, 15 minutes, maybe. Maze Rats is pretty simple, straightforward. It's made by Ben Milton, if I'm not mistaken. He is the questing beast on YouTube, Ben Milton. Recommend his channel. He reviews a lot of products. He doesn't do solo RPGs himself, but I think he acknowledged the existence of it, which is also a plus. So he's definitely one of the more popular channels out there. The reason why I mention to play a simple game is because I don't want it, you shouldn't have it be a burden, an encumbrance. There's a tabletop reference for you. Basically, if the game is heavy on rules, you are probably stuck in the pages more often, which some players might prefer to be page turning. Again, people grew up with OSR or classic games like the 70s and 80s. There are a lot of games back then where like just Gygaxian and they were written like textbooks from college textbooks, and they probably grew up knowing that and they prefer it. Like so, if you like page turners, you want to focus more on mechanics. That is within your power to do so. But for me, again, I'm kind of newish, a couple of years. I've been playing D&D and other systems out there as a very simple novice enthusiast in RPGs. I recommend a rules light system that just, again, has enough dice mechanics to have it be less of a burden and more focus on the fun, the adventure. Now, you are telling a story. This is very conflicting opinion in game masters out there. They don't want it to be necessarily a story. Want to focus on the adventure and discovery of the setting that they are pitching, that they are in control of, and the players out there, player skill over character skill. This is a big, I don't know if it's a hot topic, hot button debate between players who grew up in the 80s, so compared to modern day RPGs. But I'm not really here to do that. I just want to mention that out there if you ever stumble onto an online discussion that talks about player skill over character skill and role playing on the spur of the moment compared to having a huge backstory, building your character more than actually getting into the game itself. So everyone has different styles. I'm not here to tell you what's right and wrong. I'm just saying that you will find those little nooks and crannies out there that become a the back and forth debate, like who would win Superman versus Goku kind of situations. And I'm sure everyone, or Star Trek versus Star Wars kind of, I'm sure everyone has their opinion. It's up to you if you want to take part in those discussions, but I just want to warn you that this is a huge hobby, as I'm experiencing myself at the moment, and I've come across those discussions. Don't let it discourage you. It shows the love that people have for these systems, that they grew up in those environments that played those certain games, and they're used to it compared to what is more common now. But then at the same time, I'm fascinated by OSR games, by older retro clones or the actual original systems. That's why I collect them myself, and I become more intrigued by those compared to modern D&D 5e, which is Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition or 5.5 or whatever they call it now. So again, you can find the old systems out there, you can go through them, but for the most part, just find a simple system. That's all I've been trying to say this past 5 minutes. Karen RPG is another one. It's free. Maze Rats is fairly cheap on Ben Milton's own website. Not a sponsor, just a huge fan. And watch existing solo RPG YouTubers that play these games solo so you can get a taste of how it is. Don't go in blindly. It can feel like you are, but if you find a YouTuber out there that plays one of your favorite games, which I played Maze Rats on here countless times, not as of recently, but definitely in the past, and I still will do in the future. It's my favorite system of all time. I love 2D6. Well, it's my favorite system at the moment. It's always changing every so often, the top five, like my favorite movies. But acknowledge that there are going to be many different dice mechanic games out there. And Maze Rats, I can recommend, has 2d6. And there's a target number. You roll at it with your stat bonus. There it is. You're either successful or not. There's usually a fixed number of 10. Roll 2d6. If you exceed it, you're good. You can adjust the rules. It's easy to hack. You can change it around as much as you want. So, and I say, watch YouTubers who, it's a tough one because there are YouTubers who just play the game, who just do periodic episodes. There are also YouTubers that review the game and explain to you how to play it. That's also a plus. So maybe watch the YouTubers who teach you the game in a quick 5-minute mashup or video, or they have a playlist episode. You have some time in the background to listen to it, or you devote yourself to the video for a good hour. And then then watch a YouTuber who plays it, who you can see it in action. If you prefer to learn visually, then or compared to hearing it only without looking, then it's entirely up to you. Now, what do you need? What do I need, essentially? Depends on the method. There are two approaches to this hobby, two very glaring approaches. Nothing bad about either or. They have pros and cons, but they're both useful. There is the digital method. I've talked about this in several videos earlier in my channel, so if you want to watch those, I can recommend watching those. And people have glaring, rightfully so, glaring opinions. Digital approach can be cheaper because all you're paying for is your internet. You have digital dice rollers. You have websites like Roll20 that can be free if you don't want all the features. You can use Google Docs. You can use your notepad to track your note taking or your character sheet. There are online character sheets depending on how popular the game is. Again, Roll20 has a plethora of character sheets. There's also Foundry, Tabletop, Owlbear. There's a bunch of like free entry level ones that, but you got to pay more. So I recommend Roll20 to start, or just Google Docs. Just write your character sheet out. The digital method is great. You can play online on those, or just locally on your system, and you can download the game especially if you find a free one. That's a plus. Or you can buy it on DriveThru RPG, and they can have it there digitally if you prefer to have everything on one screen. Next is analog. This is traditional tabletop. We're talking 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, 2010s, and today. Still around. A lot of people do it, and so do I. My YouTube channel started digitally. I did a very short-lived campaign with a friend of mine, but most of my videos were on the screen, digital, just typing away. And then I started discovering analog play. I started playing tabletop. I have my camera rig here, which I have right above you guys, and it's camera straight down. I play board games. I've done war games occasionally. Depends what fad I was into. But essentially, more and more I've been playing tabletop, and that's part of the discovery of OSR, old school Renaissance. It's fascinating. I love actually having the physical book, the dice rolling, the writing, despite my almost carpal tunnel, and note taking, and just doing everything in one little physical area. I like that. Not for everybody. Some people might want to try it. If they like it, great. If they stick with it, that's up to them. Digitally, also a great way to play, especially for people who are playing group play, and you play online through Discord, etc. And it's again, it's all depends on preference. But for me, personally, analog is a great approach, especially after you discover or learn more about old school D&D or like the old school games out there, which are just a whole different world to read through. I'd say for me, my favorite, again, this always changes, but my favorite old school system is probably Palladium at this point. I don't have all of Rolemaster yet. I feel full of companion boxes or companion books. Obviously, BECMI is another favorite of mine. Basic Expert Companion Masters and Immortals for the D&D line after Advances in Dragons are split from the original D&D. Yeah, there's a bunch of I can just list off, but I don't want to cloud you guys up with that. So I've talked about that playing my channel. But yeah, there are a lot of old school games out there since the mid 70s, like prior from Chainmail, or since Gary Guy gets a Chainmail which came into the original D&D white box. And it was amazing how, as simple as it was, there's like 3 books, I think, and it had just a D6 mechanic for everything, or mostly for the most part, just D6 for all the weapons. There was no variable dice, no polyhedrals, just a D6 itself. I think a D100 was in there. Sorry, tangents quite often. Next. If you want to play analog, this also includes digital play. You need a dice, pencil, paper, the game book itself, obviously, and the imagination, which is very important. But I think what tops all of this is the time. You need to devote some time to try the game itself. After you watch the YouTubers, after you get what you need, don't spend too much money, try to find a free way to do it. Stuff around the house. If you go to your local game shop, D6 dice are so cheap. And you find the game, time. Half an hour maybe, just to learn, make the character sheet first. Read the book probably, that's the best first thing to do. Or jump to the character creation process. Just make the character, then learn about the book. Learn about the lore. If the book is genre neutral, it has no setting, like GURPS, great. But if it has a setting, if it's dark fantasy, if it's cyberpunk, etc., sci-fi, regular fantasy, modern, film noir, Call of Cthulhu, you can find different games out there. Learn about the lore so you can have a sense of what you're walking into. So make the character sheet first thing And it also depends if you want to handle 4 characters or more than one. For me, I recommend 1 character. Depending on how deadly the game is, you can also, because it's solo, I do recommend in combaters, I've mentioned this before, cheat a bit. Increase their health, increase their health, give them some chances, like give some meta points to re-roll failed rolls because it's the only character and it's just you. It's a little easier to handle 1 character, especially in a dungeon crawl, or I should say a hex crawl, depending, again, different opinions. But if you're 1 character against the world, Scott Pilgrim versus the world, you need some help. And don't throw them in the meat grinder unless you want that. Again, there's like Dungeon Crawl Classics as a meat grinder. You have all level 0 characters. These are merchants. These are farmers that get tossed into a dungeon crawl. The last guy that comes out is your actual level 1 character. So there's games like that that actually play with that kind of that approach. Next, play both as the character and the game master. This is a tough one. Very tough. Now, don't let this push you back. I mentioned tough because it's a polarizing difference compared to being part of a group. You have to maintain the bias, the perspective of the role you're playing, the player character or the game master. 2 different approaches. One's behind the screen, the shield. The others are at the table with the character sheets ready to go, whatever the game master has to throw at them. You have to maintain, like a movie, you have to maintain the character's perspective, what they know, what they're limited to knowing, and the game master, the old one above all Marvel. He knows everything, he knows what's going on, but the characters are in control of their choices. Well, for the most part. If characters bind in, the game master's like, okay, yeah, you're going to fall off the cliff, but you get a chance to save. You have to maintain that perspective. This is very important. The game master, the dungeon master, as it's called in D&D, is the storyteller, depending on how you want to argue about it, is the conflict. The game master makes the conflict, handles the world as it grows, as it lives. The players interact with that growing world, with that narrative. I don't want to pick sides here, just saying it can be seen as a narrative post game. So as it happens, it becomes a story essentially. Depends if you are a method actor or not. If you're Jim Carrey on The Man on the Moon, this is how there are different types of play out there. A group play, you can see different characters. People role play their characters in the full costume, cosplay, the voice. They are the method actors. Nothing wrong with that at all. Or the ones who are just kind of really chill about it and just say, my character goes to the door. What happens? It all doesn't really matter. As long as you're having fun, enjoying yourself, that's really what matters. So just handle these 2 perspectives until your character, fortunately, your character might die or it will be incapacitated. Then you make a new one. If you have 4 of the characters, then you're good to go. Once you level up your solo RPG experience, you can probably start to handle more characters. Now, again, keep those perspectives separate. Keep the bias in their lanes, and then the conflict will brew. So that's also part of like stagecraft, acting. You know the script, but you need to maintain the persona, the avatar of your character. Next, have fun with it. This is the end. There is so much more to this. There are countless of other things to mention, but I don't want this to be a long video. I want this to be the red pill. The moment that Morpheus gives Neo the red pill, touches that mirror, and then they save him. They bring him out to the other world, the real world. So just have fun with it. You are in control. Here's the thing. This is mentioned in the Treble Duval video, so not entirely original what I'm about to say for myself. This is from him. He says, you're in control. You can change it as you is. If you're not happy, change it up. You are the writer. You are the game master, the player, character. You can change it up. If you're not happy, which I do this quite often, if I'm not happy with what happened in my recent video, for example, Lone Rousdower series, I didn't like how one thing happened or was about to happen, so I let the audience at. I asked the audience. The advantage of being on YouTube, you can share your thoughts and people can share their recommendations, and I will adapt it to my videos. And of course, I credit them on my screen. So, but if you're playing solo by yourself, not on YouTube, you're recording it just for reference, or if you're keeping notes, again, that's a whole other video on how to track notes, what to keep track of. If you are just playing it by yourself, no camera, no microphone, nothing. It's just you, and you're not happy with it, if it's becoming a burden, take a step back, take a walk, you take a break from the game, come back to it in increments. Then you'll slowly get back into it. I guarantee it. Might be tough at first, but I think if you are, because you're in control, you can change that small detail. I wouldn't change a huge glaring thing like your character dies. No, he doesn't die here. No. I'm gonna bring him back to life. Let's try this again. That's like, like a save auto save mechanic. I don't know about that one. That one's tough. I'll let you guys discuss that below. But like if you come across a trap and something about the trap you don't like, you don't think it's really makes sense that this trap is here, take the trap away. But then create another challenge later down the road, or down the hall, I should say. Let that be an alternative. Take what you don't like, save it for later, and then apply it again in a newer fashion. And as you do more solo play, you will get more experience and become a better player slash game master. That's another thing before I close here. Solo play helps you become a better player slash game master, probably more so for game masters. You can role play as much as you want, but I think game masters can test out their settings or test out games from a solo perspective so that they know how to separate their bias from the player characters that are on the field compared to them behind the screen. So if they're playing out their own setting, their own game, trying to get used to a new game, trying to learn it in solo, which I guarantee has been done for 40 plus years by experienced game masters, dungeon masters, whichever system you're playing, referees, as it's called, I think, or no, warden and Karen is called. There's also referees out there, but essentially the person control. Then they can use that experience and they find issues like plot holes or, leaks in their adventure and then try it again. So they role play a dungeon, they go through all the rooms and all the encounters, they figure, what, I should put something here, take this away, put this guy over here, make the dungeon bigger, make this room smaller, add a secret exit here, add a portal here, stuff like that. So I think that solo play is probably a little more, in my opinion, of course, beneficial for game masters. I just want to mention that at the very end of this video. So that's really it. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm sorry if I don't cover all the topics. I do recommend for anybody on my YouTube list, a subscriber list. Thanks for watching, by the way. All of you, everyone, thanks for watching. I do recommend for anyone who's familiar with solo play, mention your tips down below. Please do. I'm not here to mention everything off the bat. I wanted this to be the introduction for newcomers to the hobby of solo play. Again, I want to emphasize, I think this video is more for people who are familiar with tabletop role playing. I really wouldn't know who to recommend for newcomers. Maybe join group play at a local game store if you have access to it, or online Discord. Watch YouTube videos of actual plays. There are, Critical Role is a huge one. They're famous for this. There are the Penguins guy, Charlie, the Voice Critical. He does his own YouTube channel of D&D or their own. They have fun with it. So yeah, watch actual plays of group play. See how the engagement is, how fun it is, and then if that intrigues you, then look into solo RPG channels, then how-to tutorials of the game itself. Again, there's multiple avenues here. There's no right and wrong. It's just welcome to the hobby. That's what I really want to say at the end of this. Welcome to the hobby. It's a fascinating hobby. I'm so happy I've been trying this hobby out for the past few years. I regret not knowing about much of tabletop role-playing since, I grew up in the 90s. But here I am now to take that back and share my experience with you guys all, with all of you guys. And I hope you find this video useful. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. It helps boost the channel. I want to mention that thing as usual. I'm trying to do that at the end of each video, not at the beginning, so it doesn't take up too much time. And as always, I will see you next time.